Welcome to Zoe Stories. My boss needed a pretty assistant. Now I'm the girl in heels. My name is Ethan Cole, 27 years old, an ordinary man who preferred blending into the background. I worked in the marketing department of a luxury cosmetics company, Lunabelle International, a place where every woman looked like she had walked straight out of a magazine cover. The kind of office where confidence was measured in heels, lipstick shades, and power poses. And me? I was the invisible guy behind the computer, managing spreadsheets, writing reports, never daring to stand out. My boss, Miranda King, was the opposite of me in every imaginable way. She was confident, sharp-tongued, and breathtakingly beautiful, known in the office for her ruthless efficiency and her obsession with perfection. She ran her team like a fashion show. Everything had to look flawless, including the people she surrounded herself with. That morning, the city was wrapped in rain. My reflection in the glass elevator door looked like someone who hadn't slept much, creased shirt, tired eyes, hair sticking up at odd angles. Miranda was already waiting in her glass-walled office, tapping her manicured nails against a folder. The moment I stepped in, I could feel her stare sweep over me. "Ethan," she said, with that cool, assessing tone, "I need a favor. And it's unusual." Those words should have warned me, but I just smiled awkwardly. "Of course, Miss King. Whatever you need." Her crimson lips curled into a smirk. "Good. Because you'll need to trust me on this one." She slid a file across her desk, photos, presentation notes, and a company schedule. "We have a very important investor arriving from France next week. They want to see the new Lunabelle campaign. The problem is, our lead assistant for the presentation quit. I need someone who can represent the brand image. Graceful, elegant, feminine." I frowned, confused. "You want me to find someone?" She leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs slowly.
No, Ethan.
"I want you to be that someone." For a few seconds, I thought she was joking. My mind went blank. I'm sorry, what?" Her gaze didn't waver. "You have the perfect build for the new design. Tall, slim, delicate features. We don't have time to hire a model, and the client is expecting a full team demonstration. You'll wear the new outfit, attend the meeting, and present the brand's image. Simple." I laughed nervously. "Miss King, I think you might be mistaken. I'm not exactly." I gestured helplessly, qualified for that. Her smirk deepened. "You'll learn. I'll personally oversee your transformation. Makeup, dress, posture, everything. Think of it as a temporary role for the company's success. Or," she paused deliberately, "I can find someone else to replace you entirely. Your choice." There it was. The unspoken threat beneath her calm tone. My stomach twisted. Miranda had the power to end my career with a single word. Lunabelle was my dream job. I couldn't afford to lose it. So against every instinct, I nodded slowly.
All right.
"I'll do it." The satisfaction in her eyes was unmistakable. "Good boy," she said, rising gracefully. "You'll start your training tomorrow." That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smirk, her red lipstick, her calm confidence as she told me to become someone else. Someone feminine. The idea sounded absurd, impossible. But the fear of losing everything was stronger than my pride. When I told my girlfriend Ava, her reaction wasn't what I expected. "You're kidding," she said, laughing, almost spilling her coffee. "She's making you dress like a woman? That's insane." "I know," I said quietly. "But I can't say no. This job, this is everything I've worked for." Her laughter softened into a concerned look. "Ethan, this could backfire. What if someone records it? What if it ruins your reputation?" I hesitated. "I'll make sure no one finds out. It's just one presentation." She leaned back, biting her lip thoughtfully. "And what if she's doing this to humiliate you?" That question hit me harder than I wanted to admit. Miranda wasn't exactly known for her kindness. She was a perfectionist who treated her employees like pieces on a chessboard. But she was also a visionary, someone who saw potential where others didn't. "Maybe she just thinks I can handle it," I said, trying to convince both her and myself. Ava sighed and touched my hand gently. Just be careful, okay? Promise me you won't let this change you. I nodded, but deep down, I wasn't so sure anymore. The next morning, when I entered Miranda's private studio, a room filled with mirrors, racks of designer clothes, and the soft scent of perfume, I felt like I had stepped into another world. She was already waiting, holding a sleek black folder labeled Transformation Schedule. Right on time, she said. Strip off your nerves, Ethan. You're about to become someone new. She opened the folder, revealing sketches, makeup palettes, and fabric swatches. My throat went dry. Dresses.
Wigs.
Heels. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. This isn't just about appearance, she continued. It's about attitude. Confidence. You'll learn how to walk, talk, and think like a Lunabelle woman. Understood. I nodded numbly. Yes, Miss King. She smiled faintly. From now on, while we train, you'll answer to a new name. Something elegant. Something that fits our brand. She paused for a moment, studying me. Then her lips curved upward. Let's call you Elena. The name hung in the air, echoing against the walls. It felt strange. Foreign. Yet for reasons I couldn't explain, it also felt inevitable, like a door had just opened inside me. I swallowed hard. Elena, I whispered. Miranda's smile widened. Perfect. Welcome to your new role. And just like that, the first step of my transformation began. The next morning began with a quiet storm inside me. My alarm rang at 6, but I'd already been awake for an hour, staring at the ceiling, rehearsing what I'd say if someone walked in on whatever was about to happen today. How do you explain to anyone, especially your girlfriend, that your boss demanded you become her pretty assistant? By the time I arrived at Lunabelle, Miranda's private studio was already lit by soft, golden light filtering through tall windows. Music played faintly in the background, some French lounge track that made the air feel expensive. Miranda was there, immaculate as always, wearing a tailored red dress and holding a clipboard. Good, she said without looking up. You're on time, Ethan. That's the first step to being a woman, precision. She glanced up, eyes sharp. Well, don't just stand there. Come in. I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. My reflection caught in one of the tall mirrors on the wall, stiff posture, awkward movements. Miranda noticed. We'll have to fix that too, she murmured. Confidence, grace, and posture. From behind a curtain, a woman entered carrying 2 large garment bags. She was in her 30s, with sleek brown hair and the kind of calm that comes from being around chaos daily. This is Renee, our in-house stylist, Miranda said. She'll be helping you with your transformation. Renee gave me a warm smile. Don't worry, Ethan. We'll take it one step at a time. By the end of the week, you'll surprise yourself. I tried to laugh, but my voice came out shaky. That's what I'm afraid of. She chuckled softly. Then let's start small. She unzipped the first garment bag, revealing a collection of women's office wear, pencil skirts, silk blouses, tailored blazers in pastel shades. The fabrics shimmered under the light. My breath caught slightly. I'd never seen clothes like that up close. Try this, she said, holding up a simple white blouse and a beige skirt. You'll see how it feels. I froze. Right now. Renee smiled patiently. That's the point, dear. Better get used to it in private before you walk into a room full of people. Miranda's eyes glimmered. Don't be shy. You've got nothing to be embarrassed about. It's just clothing. Fabric doesn't define you. Attitude does. Her words hit like a challenge. My heart pounded, but something about her tone, confident, commanding, made refusal impossible. With trembling hands, I took the outfit and stepped behind the curtain. Changing was surreal. The skirt clung tighter than any pair of pants I'd ever worn. The blouse was soft, almost whisper-thin against my skin. When I buttoned it up and caught my reflection in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. Not because I looked feminine, but because I looked vulnerable. When I stepped out, Renee clapped her hands lightly.
See?
Not so bad. Miranda's gaze swept over me from head to toe, assessing every detail. We can work with this, she said finally. But the walk, oh, that definitely needs help. She walked around me in a slow circle, heels clicking on the marble floor. Renee heels. Renee brought over a pair, nude-colored pumps with modest 3-inch heels. I stared at them like they were weapons. You expect me to walk in those? I asked, half joking. Miranda raised an eyebrow. You expect to represent Lunabelle without them? My mouth went dry. I slipped them on carefully, trying to balance. The world tilted slightly. Renee supported me by the arm, guiding my steps. Small strides, she said gently. Pretend you're gliding. The trick is in the hips. Let your movement flow. Each step felt like walking on glass, but after a few minutes, I began to find rhythm. My reflection in the mirror looked strange, unfamiliar. The skirt swayed slightly, the blouse shimmered when I turned. I didn't know if I felt humiliated or curious. Miranda observed silently, then said, Not bad. But you're still holding yourself like a man. Shoulders relaxed. Chin up. You're Elena, remember? That name again. It slid into my ears like a whisper I wasn't ready for. I adjusted my posture, breathing shallowly. Elena, I repeated under my breath. Renee smiled.
See?
She's learning fast. Miranda approached, adjusting the collar of my blouse with delicate fingers. This isn't a costume, Ethan. It's a performance. And the more you believe it, the more they will too. Her perfume was intoxicating, expensive, floral, commanding. For a second, our eyes met, and I felt a strange rush of adrenaline. It wasn't attraction. It was submission, a realization that she controlled every part of what was happening. Then she handed me a small velvet box. Open it. Inside lay a silver necklace with a tiny pendant shaped like a crescent moon, Lunabelle's logo. This will complete your look, she said, and remind you who you represent. You'll wear it every day until the presentation. I fastened it around my neck, the cold metal resting against my skin. Somehow, that small weight made everything feel more real, heavier, even. Good, Miranda said, stepping back. You'll return tomorrow. We'll move to makeup and mannerisms. She paused, smiling faintly. And, Elena, try to practice your walk at home. That evening, I stood in front of my mirror, still wearing the outfit. Ava hadn't come home yet. I told myself I was just getting used to it, just practicing. But deep down, I knew I wanted to see how far this illusion went. When I placed my hands on my hips and tried to copy Miranda's posture, I saw someone else staring back at me. Someone timid, yet oddly graceful. Someone who didn't exist yesterday. And for the first time, I whispered the name again, this time not because Miranda told me to, but because I wanted to hear it. Elena. The next morning, Miranda's studio looked more like a beauty salon than an office. A vanity mirror with bright bulbs lined the far wall, surrounded by trays of brushes, powders, lipsticks, and foundation bottles. Racks of dresses shimmered under soft lighting, and a faint scent of jasmine filled the air. Miranda greeted me with her usual authority. Morning, Elena, she said, her tone making it clear there was no going back. Today we create your face. My pulse spiked at that word, create. I wasn't sure whether she was about to disguise me or erase me entirely. Beside her stood Renee, all smiles as usual, holding a brush set like a surgeon preparing instruments. Don't worry, she said, motioning me to sit. This part is fun. I hesitated before sitting in the high chair. My reflection in the mirror was that of a nervous man in a skirt, pale, awkward, out of place. Miranda stood behind me, arms crossed, watching every movement. Relax your shoulders, she instructed. No one finds beauty in fear. Renee tied a light cape around my neck and studied my face. You've got good bone structure, she said cheerfully. A bit of contour, some soft tones, and you'll pass easily. Her casual confidence made it sound so simple, like turning a man into a woman was just another task before lunch. As the brush touched my skin, I flinched slightly. It was soft, almost ticklish. The foundation smelled faintly floral. With every sweep, the reflection grew smoother, unfamiliar. Eyes up, she said. Time for eyeliner. I obeyed silently. The sensation of the pencil gliding near my lashes made my stomach twist, but the transformation unfolding in the mirror kept me frozen in fascination. My eyes looked sharper, more defined. Not Ethan's dull, tired eyes, someone else's. Someone who knew how to hold attention. Good, Miranda murmured. Now the lips. Renee picked a soft rose shade, twisting the lipstick open. The color looked impossibly delicate, yet when she brushed it on, it changed everything. My mouth looked softer, fuller, undeniably feminine. When she finished, she stepped back.
All right.
Time for the reveal. She handed me a small hand mirror. I stared, and my breath caught. The man who entered the room that morning was gone. In his place sat a woman with flawless skin, shimmering lips, and eyes that glowed with uncertainty and fear. The makeup didn't just change how I looked, it changed how I felt. My heartbeat quickened, and my palms went damp. Miranda smiled faintly. There she is. Elena. The sound of that name while looking at this reflection sent a strange shiver down my spine. My mind screamed, "This isn't you," but a smaller voice whispered, "What if it could be?" Renee brought over a wig next, long chestnut hair styled into soft waves. "This will frame your face perfectly." She positioned it carefully, adjusting it against my scalp. The moment those strands brushed my shoulders, I froze. It was uncanny, the sensation, the scent, the movement. The mirror reflected a woman who could have been a model from the Lunabelle ads. Miranda stepped closer, tilting my chin upward. "Look at yourself, Ethan. This is what perfection demands. This is what our brand needs." I don't even recognize myself," I whispered. "That's the point," she said softly, almost kindly. "To create someone flawless." For a few moments, I couldn't look away. I touched the wig, the curve of my cheek, the painted lips. Everything felt surreal, wrong and right at the same time, like discovering a part of me I didn't know existed. Renee grinned. "You're natural. You just need to work on your voice next." "My voice," I echoed. Miranda nodded.
Yes.
"A beautiful face means nothing if the voice doesn't match. Speak softer, lighter, less assertive." I tried to imitate what she wanted. "Like this," I said, attempting to sound higher, gentler. She shook her head.
No.
"Think elegance. Let the words flow, not fall." Renee smiled encouragingly. "Pretend you're asking for a secret, not shouting a command." I took a deep breath and tried again. "Like this?" This time, Miranda's smile returned.
Better.
"You'll practice this at home. No excuses." She circled me again, eyes scanning every detail. Posture, smile, attitude. "Every inch of you must say Lunabelle." Then she said something that made my heart pound. "Tomorrow, we'll test your new self in public." I blinked. "Public? As in outside this room?" "Yes," she said simply. "There's a company dinner tomorrow evening. You'll attend as my assistant, as Elena." My mouth went dry. "Miranda, I can't." Her gaze hardened.
You will.
"You agreed to this role. And besides," her tone softened dangerously, "don't you want to see if they believe it?" I froze. The challenge in her eyes was hypnotic, part threat, part invitation. I couldn't tell if she was testing me or enjoying my discomfort. Renee touched my shoulder gently. "You'll do great. Just remember, confidence sells the illusion." When the session ended, I didn't go home right away. I lingered in front of the mirror long after they left. Every angle looked strange. The curve of my jaw softened by makeup, the shimmer of my lips catching light. I raised a hand, brushing a strand of the wig from my cheek, and for a fleeting second, I smiled. Not Ethan's shy smile, hers. Elena's. When I finally removed the wig and makeup that night, the man in the mirror looked hollow.
Ordinary.
Like the color had been drained from him. I stared for a long moment before whispering, almost afraid to hear it out loud. "I miss her." By the third day, my life no longer felt like my own. Every morning began with the same ritual, arriving at Miranda's private studio, slipping into skirts and letting Renee paint over Ethan one brushstroke at a time. Each day, Elena felt less like a disguise and more like an expectation I had to meet. Today, Miranda was in an especially focused mood. She wore a black suit that made her look untouchable, her hair pinned in a flawless bun. "We have less than 24 hours before the dinner," she said, walking around me as I stood in front of the mirror, heels already strapped tight. "Tonight, we perfect your movements. The way you walk, sit, and even breathe must be believable." Renee handed me a sleek notepad and pen. "Imagine you're at the event taking notes, serving drinks, smiling. No fidgeting, no hesitation." I nodded, trying to ignore the strange pressure building in my chest. The pencil skirt hugged my thighs too tightly, making movement awkward. I shifted my weight, struggling to maintain balance on the heels. Miranda noticed instantly. "Stop. You're overthinking. Women don't walk like they're solving equations, they flow." She crossed to me, heels clicking sharply. "Watch." With a subtle sway of her hips, she glided across the floor, confident, graceful, commanding attention without trying. When she turned, her eyes locked on mine. "Now, your turn." I tried to imitate her steps, one foot in front of the other, shoulders back, hips relaxed. The mirror reflected something halfway between clumsy and determined. "Better," she murmured. "But your eyes, they tell the story. You look scared." "I am scared," I admitted, my voice trembling slightly. Miranda tilted her head, almost amused. "Good. Fear makes you careful. But tonight, fear must look like allure." Her words lingered like perfume, strange, intoxicating, manipulative. The next few hours were a blur of posture drills and etiquette lessons. Renee played videos of models walking on runways, pausing occasionally to point out how they carried themselves. "Notice how they own every movement," she said. "No apologies." Miranda added, "You'll accompany me to the investor dinner. You won't speak unless spoken to. You'll smile, take notes, and maintain poise. You are my assistant, not Ethan pretending. Understand?" "Yes, Miss King," I murmured. She frowned. "Say it properly." "Yes, Miranda." A smile flickered at the corner of her lips. "Better. MS. King is for employees. Miranda is for those who belong to my inner circle." Something about that phrasing unsettled me, but I said nothing. Renee handed me a compact mirror. "You're improving faster than anyone I've worked with. You have a natural softness, it helps." Her compliment caught me off guard. "Thanks, I think." She laughed. "Don't sound so unsure. Confidence, remember?" When she left the room to fetch accessories, Miranda approached me slowly, folding her arms. "You're starting to see it, aren't you?" "See what?" "Elena. She's in there. You can feel her, can't you?" Her words hit something deep inside. I looked at my reflection. Eyeliner perfectly drawn, lips tinted with soft pink, hair cascading over my shoulders. Was she right? I didn't know where Ethan ended and Elena began anymore. "I'm just doing what you asked," I said weakly. Miranda leaned closer, her voice low.
"No, Ethan."
"You're doing what you wanted to do all along. You just needed permission." I stepped back, startled. "That's not true." "Isn't it?" she whispered, circling me like a predator. "The way you look at yourself in the mirror, that curiosity in your eyes, it's not fear. It's fascination."
My throat went dry.
"I don't." She silenced me with a raised hand. "Don't fight it. Embrace it. That's what makes the illusion real."
I didn't know what to say.
My heart raced, my hands trembling slightly. There was something in her tone, not cruelty exactly, but power. A knowing, dangerous kind of control. When Renee returned, the tension snapped like glass. "All right, Elena. Final test before tomorrow." She handed me a handbag and gestured toward a small couch. "Sit like a woman in a skirt." I tried. Legs together, knees slightly angled, back straight. Renee adjusted my posture, gently pushing my shoulders down. "Good. Now cross your legs, gracefully." I followed her instructions. The skirt pulled slightly against my thighs, forcing me to move carefully. The sensation was strange but grounding somehow. Perfect, Miranda said, finally satisfied. Remember this. Posture is power. That evening, as I changed back into my regular clothes, I caught my reflection once more. Without the wig and makeup, my face looked ghostly, like something was missing. I rubbed at my skin, trying to erase the lingering traces of lipstick, but the faint color refused to disappear. When I reached home, Ava was waiting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up as I entered. "You're late again." "Yeah," I muttered, kicking off my shoes. "Training ran long." She frowned. "Training? For what? You've been weird lately." I froze. My heart pounded. "It's just work pressure," I said quickly. "The presentation's huge." Ava set her phone down, studying me closely. "You smell like perfume." My breath caught. It's from the office. Miranda uses that stuff on everything." She tilted her head. "Miranda. Right." There was a long pause. Then she sighed. "Just don't let her take advantage of you, Ethan. I've heard stories about that woman." I forced a weak smile. "I'll be fine." But when I went to the bathroom that night, my reflection told a different story. I stared at the faint traces of mascara still clinging to my lashes. My fingers brushed against them, hesitant, almost gentle. In that dim light, I whispered again, the name that now haunted me. Elena. And this time, it didn't sound foreign at all. The next morning, I woke up with a strange mix of guilt and curiosity. My phone buzzed with a message from my boss. "Don't forget, big meeting today at 10. Be ready." The word ready echoed in my mind in a way that felt different now. Ever since yesterday, when that strange request to look more polished was dropped, my mind kept replaying it alongside the sight of that bag of women's clothes. I showered, shaved, and stood before my wardrobe, staring at the neatly arranged shirts and trousers. Nothing looked good enough. Every color seemed dull, every pattern too harsh. I didn't know why, but I found myself walking toward the bag again, the one still sitting in the corner of my room, unopened since last night. Curiosity overpowered fear. I untied the ribbon around the handles and opened it. Inside lay a neatly folded blouse, pale pink silk that shimmered when I touched it. Underneath was a cream pencil skirt and a pair of nude heels, size 10, my size. Someone had clearly thought this through. For a long moment, I stood frozen. My heart pounded with disbelief. Then, as if my hands moved on their own, I picked up the blouse. The fabric was impossibly smooth, softer than anything I had ever worn. I held it up against myself in front of the mirror, and suddenly, I could see it. The polished assistant, the feminine elegance my boss had hinted at. It was absurd, and yet something about it thrilled me. I told myself it was just an experiment. A joke. Maybe if I understood what he meant by presentation, I could play along for one day. My fingers trembled as I began to dress. The blouse clung lightly to my chest, the skirt hugged my waist, and when I zipped it up, I actually gasped. I looked different. My shoulders seemed narrower, my shape softer. When I slipped my feet into the heels, I stumbled at first, then found a balance that made me stand taller, straighter, oddly proud. I brushed my hair and, after a long hesitation, reached for the simple lipstick in the bag. It was nude pink, subtle enough to pass as professional. My reflection stared back at me, half disbelief, half fascination. That's when my phone rang.
Ava.
I froze, panicked, nearly tripping as I rushed to grab it. My voice cracked when I answered. "Hey, Bella." She laughed lightly. "You sound nervous." "Big meeting." "Why, yeah," I said quickly, turning away from the mirror. "Just getting ready." "Don't stress too much," she said warmly. "You're good at what you do. Remember that." Her encouragement twisted the knife of guilt deeper. I wished she could see me now, then again, maybe I didn't. I wasn't sure how she'd react to her boyfriend standing in front of the mirror dressed like this. After we hung up, I exhaled shakily and grabbed my work bag. I knew I couldn't walk out like this. Not yet. But something inside me didn't want to take it off either. So I did the strangest thing. I slipped a loose trench coat over the outfit and left for work. The walk to the office was terrifying. Every click of my heels on the pavement made me glance around nervously. The coat hid most of the outfit, but the sound betrayed me. People passed by, some not even looking twice, others offering polite smiles. For a fleeting second, I felt invisible, safe, and that strange thrill pulsed stronger in my chest. When I reached the office, my heart raced as I stepped into the elevator. The mirror inside reflected just enough of me to make my breath hitch. The lipstick, the soft blouse under the coat collar, it was dangerous. Reckless. Addictive. Then, on the 5th floor, the doors opened and Mr. Lewis stepped in. My boss. I nearly stopped breathing. He adjusted his tie, looked up, and froze. His gaze flicked briefly from my face to my coat, then back to my eyes. A faint, knowing smile touched his lips. "Well," he said softly, pressing the button for the 10th floor. "You took my advice rather well." I blinked, pretending not to understand. "Yes, sir." "The presentation," he said smoothly. "You look more confident already." The words sent a jolt through me. I couldn't tell if it was flattery or something else entirely. As the elevator climbed, the silence between us grew heavy. When we reached his floor, he stepped out first, then turned slightly. "Keep that confidence today. It suits you." The rest of the day was a blur of panic and performance. I avoided standing too close to anyone, terrified someone would notice the faint lipstick or the heels peeking from under my coat. And yet, whenever I passed a reflective surface, I couldn't resist a glance. There was something intoxicating about the woman staring back. Nervous, yes, but radiant in a way I'd never been before. By evening, when I returned home and peeled off the coat, I stood in front of the mirror for a long time. The makeup was smudged, the blouse wrinkled, but I couldn't bring myself to hate what I saw. For the first time in years, I felt seen. But as night fell and I received another message from Mr. Lewis, "Tomorrow, we'll discuss your new role. Come prepared." A chill crept down my spine. New role? What exactly did he mean? Sleep didn't come easily that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my boss's expression, the subtle smirk in the elevator, the way his words lingered. "Keep that confidence." It wasn't just a compliment. It felt like an invitation or a test. I lay awake, replaying every moment, every flick of his gaze, until morning sunlight crept through the blinds. I got up, exhausted, and faced the mirror again. The bag of clothes still sat on the chair, like a secret whispering to me. I told myself I wouldn't do it again. That yesterday was a one-time mistake, a bizarre moment of weakness. But when I opened my closet and stared at my plain shirts and dull slacks, something inside me resisted. I didn't want to go back to looking like that, like the invisible, anxious man everyone ignored. My fingers brushed the blouse again. This time, I didn't hesitate. I dressed deliberately, slowly, first the blouse, then the skirt, then the heels that made me stand straighter. My movements were more confident now, almost practiced. When I applied the lipstick, I caught my reflection smiling. Not with shame, but anticipation. I put on the trench coat again before stepping out, the familiar weight of secrecy pressing against my chest. Every click of my heels on the pavement was like a heartbeat, and as I approached the office, I realized I wasn't afraid anymore. I was excited. Inside, the day began normally enough. My coworkers were buzzing about the upcoming product launch. Papers shuffled, phones rang. I kept to my desk, trying to focus, until a message popped up on my screen. "Mr. Lewis, conference room. 5 minutes." My heart jumped. When I entered the conference room, it was empty except for him. He stood by the window, sunlight outlining his sharp figure. Without looking up, he said, "Close the door, please." I obeyed. Then, still facing away, he spoke calmly. I hope you don't mind my observation, but you seem different lately." More composed. I swallowed hard. "Thank you, sir." He turned, eyes scanning me in that same slow, measured way that made me feel exposed. "Yesterday, I asked for confidence. Today, you brought something more."
Poise.
I just wanted to make a good impression," I stammered. "You did," he said, his voice soft but deliberate. In fact, I'm considering you for a new assignment. One that requires adaptability. Adaptability. He nodded and walked closer. A client event. High-profile investors, strict decorum, visual presentation matters. I'll need an assistant who can represent our brand's image. His eyes locked on mine. You understand what I mean. I didn't. Not fully. But the implication hung thick in the air. Sir, I said carefully, if you're asking me to dress differently. He smiled faintly. Let's call it professional flexibility. My breath caught. He wasn't teasing, he was serious. Before I could respond, he slid a folder across the table. Inside was a printed schedule and a photo. It was from the company's gala 2 years ago. Every woman in that photo was perfectly polished. Heels, makeup, tailored dresses. Standing among them, my boss looked powerful, confident. This event defines our public image, he said. Our clients remember faces.
Grace. Charm.
If you want this promotion, you'll attend as my assistant. The presentation must be flawless. I looked down at the photo, my mind spinning. You want me to blend in, he finished smoothly. Think of it as method acting. I stared at the folder, the weight of his words sinking in. Promotion. Image. Opportunity. My career had been stagnant for years. This was the kind of break I'd been waiting for, but at a cost I never imagined. I'll think about it, I managed to say. He smiled as if he already knew my answer.
Good.
You have until tomorrow morning. When I left the room, my knees felt weak. I went straight to the restroom and locked myself in a stall. My reflection in the mirror, lipstick fading, a trace of blush on my cheeks, looked like someone I barely knew. Was this who I was becoming? Back at my desk, I couldn't focus. Ava's photo on my phone caught my eye, her easy smile twisting my heart with guilt. She had no idea what was happening. Would she even recognize me now? The rest of the day crawled by. When I finally reached home, I dropped my bag and sat on the bed, staring at my reflection once more. The words promotion and presentation echoed in my head like a spell. I could almost see it, the glamorous event, the flashing lights, my boss standing beside me, his pretty assistant dressed in perfection. A part of me whispered, you can't. Another part whispered, but you want to. And that night, when I turned off the lights, I found myself whispering to the darkness. What if this is who I'm meant to be? But deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. Mr. Lewis wasn't just giving me an opportunity. He was testing me, pushing me further into a world I wasn't ready for. And tomorrow, I'd have to decide whether to step into it completely or lose everything I'd worked for. The next morning felt heavier than usual. My alarm rang at 7 a.m., but I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, my mind caught between two lives. The one I'd lived until now, safe, ordinary, invisible, and the one that had opened up in front of me like a forbidden door. When I finally got up, sunlight spilled through the curtains, painting my apartment in a golden hue. It should have been comforting, but it only reminded me of the decision hanging over me. The folder my boss had given me sat on the nightstand, mocking me with its neat professionalism. I picked it up again, flipping through the pages. The event was tomorrow night, an exclusive company gala at the Grand Regency Hotel. The guest list was filled with high-profile names, media representatives, and investors. Everyone would be watching. And my boss wanted me there, not as myself, but as his assistant. The logical part of my brain screamed at me to refuse. But there was another voice, quieter, darker, that whispered how thrilling it would feel to step into that world. To be admired, desired.
Seen.
My phone buzzed suddenly, snapping me out of the trance. Ava. Hey love, dinner tonight? I've missed you. Guilt stabbed through me. I hadn't seen her properly in days. I typed back quickly. Me. Of course.
Can't wait.
But as I sent it, another message appeared from an unknown number. Unknown. Your fitting is at 5 p.m. Don't be late. My stomach dropped. It could only be from one person. I typed back hesitantly. Me. Fitting? For what? A reply came almost instantly. Unknown. For your role, of course. Suite 214. Hotel Regency. The room spun. He'd already arranged everything. The decision had been made for me. By 4:30 p.m., I was pacing in front of the mirror, debating every excuse I could come up with, but I couldn't bring myself to send any. My hands trembled as I picked up the trench coat again. Just one fitting, I told myself.
Just to see what he had in mind.
When I arrived at the hotel, the staff guided me to the second floor. The corridor smelled faintly of lavender and expensive perfume. Suite 214 stood at the end, its door slightly ajar. I hesitated, then knocked. "Come in," came a woman's voice. Inside, a tailor's workspace had been set up, garment racks, full-length mirrors, and a vanity surrounded by soft lights. A woman in her 40s, elegant and poised, smiled at me. You must be Mr. Lewis's assistant," she said, gesturing for me to come closer. I froze. I think there's been a misunderstanding." She chuckled gently. "Oh, don't be nervous, dear. He told me everything." Everything. Before I could protest, she handed me a hanger wrapped in silk. "Try this on. He said you have good posture. Let's see if the fit complements that." I stepped into the dressing room with shaking hands. Inside the wrapping was a stunning outfit, a tailored white blouse, a slim pastel skirt, and matching heels. The same color palette as before, but elevated, luxurious. I should have walked away. But the moment I touched the fabric, something inside me softened. Minutes later, I stepped out, dressed completely. The tailor's eyes widened with delight. "Perfect," she whispered. "You carry it beautifully." I turned toward the mirror, and the air caught in my throat. It wasn't just me anymore. The man I'd been was gone. In his place stood someone polished, elegant, almost radiant. My hair, brushed neatly, framed my face in a softer way. The makeup she applied was minimal yet transformative. When I finally dared to look into my own eyes, I didn't see fear anymore. I saw power. "Mr. Lewis will be pleased," the tailor said, adjusting my collar. I spun around, startled. "He's here." Before she could answer, the door opened. He stepped in, suit crisp, tie perfect, gaze sharp as glass. His eyes swept over me from head to toe, lingering just long enough to make my skin tingle. "Well," he said slowly, "you've exceeded my expectations." My breath hitched. "Sir, I don't." He raised a hand, stopping me. "Relax. This isn't punishment. It's evolution. You're about to represent this company in a way few could manage." His words were calculated, flattering but firm. Every sentence pulled me deeper into his orbit. "I didn't know this would go this far," I whispered. He smiled faintly. "Neither did I. But look at you. You were made for this." My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I wanted to argue, to run, but when I looked in the mirror again, I couldn't. The reflection wasn't pleading for escape anymore. It was daring me to step into the light. The night of the gala came faster than I wanted it to. I'd told Ava I couldn't make dinner, that my boss had scheduled an emergency event. She didn't sound angry, but her voice held that quiet disappointment that gnawed at me. "It's fine," she'd said softly. "You've been busy lately. Just don't forget who you are, okay?" That line echoed in my mind as I stood in front of the hotel mirror hours later, staring at someone I barely recognized. The tailor had returned earlier that evening, adding the final touches. The outfit was elegant yet commanding, a sleek pastel blue dress that hugged my frame perfectly, paired with nude heels and a delicate silver necklace. My hair had been styled to fall just above my shoulders, framing my face in soft waves. And the makeup, God, the makeup. It was flawless, enough to make me unrecognizable even to myself. As I turned slightly in the mirror, the reflection seemed to smile back with quiet confidence. Not nervous, not uncertain, poised. My boss's words repeated in my head. Think of it as evolution. But the strangest part? I didn't hate it anymore. When Mr. Lewis arrived, he didn't say a word at first. His eyes took in every detail of the transformation, from the curve of my neckline to the steady poise of my stance. Finally, he gave a small, satisfied nod. You'll do perfectly, he said. Tonight, you're my assistant, Miss Renee. I blinked. Renee? It suits you, he said, adjusting his cufflinks. You'll answer to that tonight. Understood. I hesitated, my throat dry. Yes, sir. The words slipped out before I could stop them, and something in his expression softened, like he knew he had complete control now. The ballroom was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, scattering golden light across marble floors. A string quartet played softly in the corner while servers glided between guests carrying champagne. Everywhere I looked, people sparkled with confidence. Powerful men in suits, elegant women in gowns, laughter echoing under the hum of conversation. And there I was, heels clicking softly against the marble as I followed Mr. Lewis into the center of it all. Heads turned. I felt eyes on me, admiring, curious, appraising. A rush of heat flooded my chest. It was terrifying, intoxicating. Mr. Lewis introduced me to clients, each one offering polite smiles and compliments. Your assistant is charming, one woman said, her tone playful. You have good taste, Mr. Lewis. He smiled, glancing briefly at me. Yes, he said simply. I do. The praise made my heart race. I tried to keep my composure, to remember who I really was beneath the layers of silk and makeup, but each passing moment blurred the line further. At one point, he leaned close to whisper, You're doing beautifully, Renee. You belong here. The name felt strange on my tongue when I whispered back, Thank you, sir. He smiled again, the kind that made my knees weak. See? You're learning. But the illusion shattered when I felt my phone vibrate in the small clutch bag. I excused myself and slipped into a quieter corner near the terrace. It was a message from Ava. Ava, you said you were working, but someone posted a photo from the gala. Is that you? My blood ran cold. I quickly opened social media, and there it was. A tagged photo of Mr. Lewis with his assistant beside him. The lighting was perfect, the angle flattering. But what terrified me most was how natural I looked. Smiling, confident, effortlessly feminine. My hands trembled. What would I even tell her? That it was a disguise? A professional requirement? That her boyfriend had been parading around as his boss's pretty assistant? I typed and deleted 3 different replies, heart pounding in my throat. Before I could respond, Mr. Lewis appeared beside me, his voice low and calm. Everything all right, Renee? I turned to face him, clutching the phone tightly. Someone recognized me. He raised an eyebrow. Ah, that's unfortunate, but expected. You're very photogenic. This isn't funny, I hissed, my voice trembling. She's going to find out. He stepped closer, lowering his voice until it brushed against my ear. Then give her a reason to be proud. You're representing this company with grace. You're proving your worth. I shook my head. You don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, he said softly. You're scared because this side of you feels more real than the one you've been pretending to be. I froze. His words hit me like lightning, because somewhere, deep inside, I knew they were true. He leaned back, eyes calm but intense. Now wipe that worry off your face. You're mine tonight, Renee. Don't disappoint me. I swallowed hard and nodded. When I returned to the crowd, the applause began for the keynote presentation. I stood by his side, smiling for the cameras, playing the role he'd molded me into. But under the glittering lights and hollow smiles, my thoughts raced with guilt, confusion, and a terrifying truth.
Part of me didn't want the night to end.
The gala ended just before midnight, but the night's tension clung to me long after the applause faded. The ride back to the hotel was silent. Mr. Lewis sat beside me in the black company car, his expression unreadable as city lights flickered across his face. I sat perfectly still, hands folded in my lap, the hem of my pastel dress brushing against my knees. Every time I tried to breathe, I caught the faint scent of my own perfume, a soft floral note that only reminded me of how far I'd gone. When the car stopped, he turned toward me. You did well tonight, he said, his tone calm and measured. Better than I'd expected. I tried to smile. Thank you, sir. You understand now, he continued. Presentation isn't about gender, it's about control. Commanding attention without saying a word. I didn't answer. The truth was I did understand, maybe too well. Every compliment, every admiring glance from the guests had filled me with a strange kind of electricity. He reached for the door handle, but paused. Tomorrow, come to the office as her. I blinked. You mean like this? Exactly like this, he said, stepping out. Your presence makes an impression. That's what I need. Before I could protest, he closed the door and walked away, leaving me in the dark car, my heart hammering in my chest. Back home, I stripped off the heels first, then the dress, then the wig that had started to itch beneath the lights. When I finally looked in the mirror, the transformation was half gone, but not completely. My lipstick was smeared, my eyeliner faint, yet the trace of Renee still stared back at me from behind tired eyes. And for a fleeting moment, I missed her. But my phone buzzing on the counter snapped me out of the trance. Ava, we need to talk.
Now.
The words made my stomach twist. I tried to ignore them, to wash away the makeup first, to find something normal to wear, but she called before I could even reply. I answered, my voice low. Hey. Don't hey me, she said sharply. I saw the photos. You're him, aren't you? The one in the blue dress beside your boss. My throat went dry. Bella, it's not what you think. Oh, really? She snapped. Because it looks like my boyfriend's been playing dress up for his boss behind my back. The words stung more than I expected. I tried to explain, but everything sounded wrong. It was part of my job. He asked me to do it for an event. It's not. She cut me off. Not what? Not something you enjoyed? Because you looked comfortable. You looked like you belonged there. I didn't, I said desperately. I swear I didn't plan any of this. There was silence on the other end. Then, quietly, she asked, Do you even know who you are anymore? Her voice cracked. It was the sound of heartbreak wrapped in disbelief. I couldn't find words. For the first time, I didn't know how to answer that question. Finally, she said, I need space. Don't call me until you figure yourself out. The line went dead. I stood there, phone still pressed to my ear, staring at my reflection. The same reflection she'd seen online. The same person she didn't recognize anymore. And the truth hit me like a punch. I didn't recognize myself either. The next morning, I woke up with puffy eyes and a hollow ache in my chest. I should have called in sick. I should have stayed home. But something deeper, something dangerous, pushed me forward. By the time I reached my wardrobe, my hands were already reaching for the silk blouse again. When I arrived at the office, every click of my heels on the marble floor echoed like a confession. Heads turned. Conversations paused. I could feel eyes on me, judging, whispering, wondering. Mr. Lewis was waiting by his office door, smiling faintly, punctual, and stunning as always. The compliment burned through my shame. I didn't respond, just walked past him into the office. Coffee, he asked casually. I froze. You want me to get it? He chuckled softly. Relax, Renee. I'm only teasing. Sit down. I sat, crossing my legs nervously, trying to act composed. He leaned against the edge of his desk, studying me. Last night, he said, you were the centerpiece of that room. Do you know what that means? I shook my head. It means people noticed you, not me. That's power, Renee. The kind people spend years chasing. I'm not sure I want that kind of power, I said quietly. He tilted his head, eyes narrowing slightly. Don't you? You looked alive last night. More alive than any man in this building. His words sent a chill through me. I opened my mouth to protest, but he stepped closer, lowering his voice. You think this is about humiliation. It's not. It's transformation. I'm showing you who you really are. I looked up at him, trembling. And who's that supposed to be? He smiled. Someone who is never meant to hide. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. The air between us felt charged, dangerous. And though I hated to admit it, part of me believed him. That night, I couldn't sleep. Mr. Lewis's words replayed in my mind like a haunting echo. You were never meant to hide. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw that version of me from the gala, flawless makeup, confident smile, head held high, a stranger, but also someone who felt terrifyingly real. By morning, I didn't bother reaching for my old clothes. My hands went straight for the soft pink blouse, the skirt that hugged just right, the heels that gave me that graceful rhythm when I walked. Every piece felt like a choice and a surrender at the same time. When I reached the office, Mr. Lewis was already there, leaning over the desk, typing. He looked up and smiled, that same subtle, knowing smile that always made my pulse quicken. "Morning, Renee," he said smoothly. "Glad to see you're embracing it." I swallowed hard. "You told me to." He laughed under his breath. "I only gave you permission. You did the rest." His tone was teasing, but underneath it, something sharp glimmered, control. He motioned for me to come closer. "I have something for you." On the desk was a small velvet box. My heart skipped as I opened it. Inside lay a thin gold necklace, delicate and feminine. "I can't accept this," I said quickly. "It's part of your presentation," he replied. "Every detail matters."
But
"Put it on," he said, softly but firmly. My hands trembled as I clasped it around my neck. The metal was cool against my skin. He stepped closer, fingers brushing my collarbone as he adjusted the chain slightly. "Perfect," he murmured. "Now, let's get to work." But I could barely focus. The scent of his cologne, the closeness of his voice, it made my thoughts scatter. I tried to push them away, but every word he spoke drew me deeper into something I couldn't name. Later that day, as I was leaving the building, Ava's number flashed across my phone screen. My heart leapt, hope, fear, confusion all at once. "Bella," I breathed when I answered. Her voice was flat. "Can we meet?" "Of course. Anywhere, anytime." We met at a cafe near her apartment. She was already there, arms folded, watching me approach. When her eyes took in my skirt, the soft makeup, the delicate necklace, her expression shifted between shock and sorrow. "Wow," she whispered. "You didn't even try to hide it." I sat down, guilt flooding me. "It's not what it looks like." She raised an eyebrow. "You keep saying that. But every time I look at you, it looks more like that." "It started as a job," I said quickly. "He made me do it for the company's image." "And now," she interrupted. "Now you're doing it for who?" Her voice trembled. "Because it doesn't look like a disguise anymore." I looked down. The truth was she was right. I didn't feel like I was wearing a costume anymore. The clothes fit too naturally. The voice that came out of me wasn't an act. "Do you love him?" she asked suddenly. My head snapped up.
what?
"No." "Then why are you letting him change you?" I had no answer. Tears welled in her eyes. "I loved you, the real you. But I don't even know who that is anymore." She stood up before I could say another word, leaving me sitting there, half made up, half broken. The moment she walked out the door, I realized I had no one left to call. That night, I found myself standing outside Mr. Lewis's penthouse. I didn't even remember deciding to go there. My feet just brought me. He opened the door before I could knock. "I thought you might show up." I stared at him, trembling. "Why me? Why are you doing this to me?" He stepped aside, motioning me in. "Because you needed someone to free you." "Free me?" I almost laughed. "You've trapped me in someone else's skin." He poured 2 glasses of wine. "You think I'm your jailer," he said. "But tell me, who came here tonight, dressed like that, of her own will?" I froze. His eyes met mine, calm, confident, devastatingly certain. "You could have stayed home. You could have taken off the makeup. But you didn't. You came here because this," he gestured to me, "is who you've become." "No," I whispered, shaking my head. "No, it's not." "Look at yourself," he said, voice low. "Really look." He led me to a mirror. The reflection staring back was radiant. Terrified, yes, but radiant. My lips glistened under the light, my eyes framed perfectly, my body poised with unfamiliar grace. "You see her," he murmured behind me. And you know she's beautiful. You know she's real. A single tear slid down my cheek. I don't know who I am anymore. He leaned close enough for his breath to warm my ear. That's the first honest thing you've said. I turned to face him, but before I could speak, his hand brushed against my cheek, slow and deliberate. For a second, I couldn't move. The air between us was heavy, almost electric. Don't fight it, Renee, he said softly. You've already chosen. The silence, after his words, was unbearable. I stood frozen, staring at him, unsure if I should run or stay. Mr. Lewis set down his glass of wine and walked slowly toward me. Every step echoed against the marble floor, each one pulling me deeper into confusion. I don't want to choose this, I said, voice trembling. He stopped in front of me, his eyes steady. Then why haven't you walked away? I opened my mouth to answer, but nothing came out. The truth hung heavy between us. I couldn't walk away. Not from the strange confidence I'd found, not from the attention, not from the freedom that terrified me more than anything. He reached out, brushing a lock of hair behind my ear. His touch was deliberate, not cruel, not tender, just commanding. You don't see it yet, he whispered. But you were never pretending. You were becoming. My breath hitched. Stop it, I pleaded. You're twisting everything. Am I? He asked softly. Then take it off. Wipe away the lipstick. Tear off the heels. Go back to being who you were. If you can. I glanced toward the mirror again. The reflection looking back wasn't the man I used to be. My posture, my voice, even my heartbeat felt different. I didn't see disguise anymore. I saw her. I closed my eyes, trying to hold on to my past, the version of me who had dreams, a relationship, a plan. But every image was fading behind the woman in the mirror. I can't, I whispered. He smiled, slow, victorious. Then don't. The words hit me like a spell breaking. Something inside me gave way. The fear, the guilt, the constant battle between hiding and craving, it all burst into something raw and undeniable. My voice was shaking, but clear. I don't know who I am anymore, but I know this isn't over. He tilted his head. No, it's not. And then he did something I didn't expect. He stepped back. This isn't about me anymore, he said, voice quieter now. It's about what you do next. Whether you let her live or bury her again. I could barely breathe. The silence stretched on, broken only by the city lights flickering through the window. Finally, I turned toward the door. My heels clicked against the floor. That sound that used to make me blush now steadied me. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to leave before he took the rest of me too. As I reached the elevator, he called after me, "You'll be back." I looked over my shoulder, eyes burning. Maybe, I said. But if I do, it'll be my choice. Outside, the night was colder than I remembered. The wind tugged at my hair, my skirt brushing against my legs as I walked through the empty streets. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of being seen. My phone buzzed, a message from Ava. "Are you okay?" I stared at the screen, unsure what to say. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before I typed back. I don't know who I am right now, but I'm trying to find out. 3 disappeared. She was typing. Then they vanished. I stood there under the streetlight, waiting, but no reply came. Just the wind, the city noise, and the faint sound of my heels clicking away into the night. Back in my apartment, I walked straight to the mirror again. My reflection stared back, mascara slightly smudged, lipstick faded, hair messy from the wind. But the woman looking at me didn't look broken. She looked alive. I took a deep breath and whispered to my reflection, maybe he's right. Maybe this isn't pretending. And for the first time, I smiled, not because of Mr. Lewis or the job or even the clothes, but because beneath everything, I was finally starting to see who I could be. The sound of a knock broke the silence. 3 sharp taps on the door. My heart froze. I turned slowly toward the entrance, pulse racing. "Renee?" A familiar voice called.
Ava.
Her tone was hesitant, trembling, as if she wasn't sure what she'd find. I took one step toward the door, my mind spinning. Should I hide? Change? or open it as the woman I was becoming. Another knock. Please, I just want to talk. I closed my eyes, my hand resting on the handle, and then I pulled it open. Light from a hallway spilled in, bright, blinding, and her gasp filled the room. Ethan, she whispered. Then, after a heartbeat, her voice softened. Or should I say, Renee? For a long moment, we just stared at each other, me in my blouse and skirt, lipstick half faded, and Ava standing in the doorway, eyes wide with disbelief. The air between us felt charged, fragile, like the pause before glass shatters. I didn't mean to surprise you, she said softly, stepping inside. But when you texted, I had to see for myself. I turned away, arms crossing instinctively. So now you've seen. Congratulations. She closed the door gently behind her. Don't do that, she said, voice trembling. Don't pretend I don't matter anymore. I spun around, tears pricking my eyes. You walked away, Bella. You left when I needed you to understand. I couldn't understand, she admitted.
Not then.
You were changing so fast, and it felt like I was losing you. Her eyes moved slowly from my heels to my face. But maybe I wasn't losing you. Maybe I just didn't want to accept who you were becoming. Her words hit me like a spark. I took a shaky breath. I don't even know who I'm becoming. He says I'm free, but it feels like I'm trapped inside a version of myself I can't escape. Mr. Lewis? She asked. I nodded. Her face darkened. He's manipulating you, Ethan. He's feeding off your confusion. I swallowed hard. Maybe. But he also made me feel seen. She shook her head. He made you feel owned. The truth of it burned deep. I'm trying to figure it out, I whispered. I'm trying to understand why this feels both wrong and right. Ava stepped closer, her tone softening. You don't owe him your identity, Ethan. You never did. When she said my name, Ethan, something inside me twisted. That name, once solid, now felt distant, heavy, foreign. Don't call me that, I said quietly. She froze. Then what should I call you? Silence. My throat tightened. Renee. She looked at me for a long time, the tears in her eyes catching the light. Renee, she repeated, like the word itself was something sacred and dangerous. The sound of it, her voice saying that name, made my knees weak. It wasn't anger or rejection in her tone. It was something else. Something almost tender. She reached out, her fingers brushing my cheek. I don't know how to process this, she whispered. But I can't deny what I see. I looked at her, my heart racing. And what do you see? Her lips parted. Someone who's terrified to be who she is. The words cracked something open inside me. I wanted to scream, cry, run, anything but stand there, vulnerable under her gaze. But instead, I whispered, I wish I could stop feeling like this. Then stop fighting it, she said. I blinked. What? She gave a small, trembling smile. Maybe this isn't about choosing between who you were and who you are. Maybe it's about finally being honest with both. I felt my breath catch. So, you don't hate me? I could never hate you, she said softly. I just need to understand how to love you again. I took a step toward her, hesitant, searching her eyes. Do you think that's possible? She hesitated, then nodded slowly. Maybe. But not if you keep letting him control the story. Her words hung in the air, and for the first time, I realized how deeply Mr. Lewis had written himself into my transformation. Every choice, every outfit, every word of encouragement that was really control. It wasn't freedom. It was direction. And maybe now, for the first time, I had to write the next line myself. A faint buzzing filled the silence, my phone lighting up on the table. One new message. Mr. Lewis, I hope you're not making mistakes tonight. You still belong to me, Renee. The color drained from my face. Ava saw it instantly. What is it? I showed her the message, hands shaking. Her jaw tightened. He's watching you. Before I could respond, another message came through. Mr. Lewis, if you don't come to work tomorrow exactly as you are, heels, hair, everything, consider your job over. And maybe more than that. I felt sick. He wouldn't, but I knew he would. Ava grabbed my hand. You can't go back there. I don't have a choice. I snapped. He's my boss. He knows everything about me, even things I can't risk getting out. Then let him expose it, she said fiercely. At least you'll be free. Her words echoed through me, free. Could I really do it? Could I let go of everything, even if it meant losing everything I'd built? I looked at the phone one last time, my reflection shining in the black screen, mascara streaked, lipstick smudged, eyes alive with fear and something deeper, defiance. Maybe, I whispered. Maybe it's time he sees who I really am on my terms. Ava squeezed my hand. Then we do it together. We stood there, side by side, both trembling, not from fear, but from the quiet realization that the story wasn't over. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, shaking the windows. The storm was coming. I glanced once more at the mirror, at the woman staring back, her expression fierce, uncertain, but undeniably real. And then the screen lit up again. Mr. Lewis, I'm outside. My heart stopped. Ava's eyes widened. He's here. Before I could answer, there was a knock on the door. 3 sharp, deliberate knocks. The same rhythm as before. We froze, caught between fear and resolve. I looked toward the door, then back at Ava. Whatever happens next, I whispered, he doesn't get to decide who I am anymore. The knocking grew louder, and with a trembling hand, I reached for the handle, the same way I had earlier that night, unsure whether I was about to face the end of something or the beginning of everything. The door creaked open, and the screen cut to black.